What is going on, guys? We are back on another episode of DC Bronzies. I am Tyler. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be doing 5 tips for starting out your very own fish tank or aquarium. Just a couple things that maybe I wish I would have known before starting mine. You know, tips that I couldn't find or I never knew about. I'm going to let you guys know what I think today. 5 simple tips, really quick. But before that, I actually got rid of the tank. Well, I didn't get rid of the tank. I let the fish go, let Jimmy go, because as you guys know, I feed him grasshoppers. And it's getting cold in Wisconsin here, so I don't really have any grasshoppers left. I don't really want to deal with feeding him waxworms. So I just let him go. He's in the pond, all happy. But anyway, guys, let's start this video out. I'm going to give you my tips for making the tank. Alright, guys, so tip number 1 for starting a tank is basically the parts that you need. So this is something that I really struggled with at the beginning. I wasn't really sure what I needed for my tank specifically, and so really all you need is you need the tank and a filter. Misconception that a lot of people have is for like a 10 to 20 gallon tank is that you need a pump. That's something that's really not necessary. The filter, you know, it does its job, it filters the water, but then after the water is like filtered, it dumps back into the tank, which allows for oxygenation of the water. Basically, those are the 2 things that you need. I guess the only other things that you really need, which I'll talk about more later, are just the safe start bacteria for your water if you want to be able to get in fish right away, and then also your dechlorinator for your water at home. When you're putting that in, you don't want there to be chlorine in the water, because otherwise that'll kill your fish. So those are the things that you need right away to set up your tank. You know, really you don't need anything more to start out. You can always get more stuff. You might need a heater in your tank if you have saltwater fish or just tropical fish in general. You might need a heater for that, but that just kind of depends on what you're going to be putting in your tank. If you're going to be doing wild fish like I do, or I did, or just any kind of fish from the pet store, that all depends, and you guys will have to do the research on that. Alright, tip number 2. Tip number 2 is basically starting your tank and acclimating your fish to the environment and the temperature that you have in there. One thing that I did find out with my research is you obviously have to acclimate your fish when they're coming from the store or from a pond or whatever. You got to make sure to keep them in a plastic bag with the water they originally came from, putting that bag in your tank, and then letting that sit for about 20 minutes so that they can acclimate to the new temperature of the water. So that's a big thing. Ideally, keep the temperature the same or similar as where the fish came from. That way they're not as shocked when entering that. And then obviously I preferred water that was a little cooler, at least for my beluga that I caught in a pond, just because the cooler water didn't allow for as much algae in the tank and just any buildup of anything in the tank there. So that's what I did for my tank. Tip number 3, guys, is cleaning your tank. So basically what I did after I got my tank is, because I fed the bluegills grasshoppers. Obviously, if you're feeding pellets, it's not as big of a deal and you won't need to clean it as much, but I had a lot of leftover the exoskeleton of the grasshopper in the bottom of the tank with my gravel, and so I needed to clean that out and get that out of there so that there was no ammonia buildup in the tank, which actually kills your fish. So I went to the store and I got a gravel vacuum. You guys can look that up. It's basically just like a little plastic. Actually, I think I don't have it over here, but it's like a contraption where it's like a big hose, got a long hose connected to it. You start a siphon, and that way you can suck up the bottom with it. So that was huge for me. I would definitely recommend getting that for you guys if you're interested in quickly cleaning your tank. And then I did that about halfway, brought the water halfway down, and then I'd refill with new water after dechlorinating that water and then putting it in the tank so that there would be some fresh water and that the bottom would be nice and clean for the fish. Tip number 4 is cycling your tank. This is for the start when you're first putting your fish in. This is huge. A lot of times people overlook this, and it's something that I also did research on to find out, and that is So you need to prepare your tank for putting fish in it. So all you have to do really is get your filter in. You got your substrate, whatever you're using, gravel, sand, get that in there. You're gonna fill your tank with water, and you're gonna start cycling that water through your filter. That way you can get all the debris out of the tank. And during that time, you're gonna wanna be putting in your safe start bacteria to prep the water for the fish and the filter as well. So that will be going through the filter, getting that safe bacteria for those fish that'll ultimately benefit them. And after maybe 24 hours or so, that tank should be ready for fish. And along with that, you'll be wanting to put in your dechlorinator so that there isn't a bunch of chlorine in your water. So that is tip number 4 for cycling and starting out your tank. Tip number 5 is feeding your fish. Like I said, I used insects to feed my wild fish. Otherwise, a lot of you are probably using pellets or flakes for your fish that are probably store-bought. So basically, I like to feed my fish for sure once a day. Ideally, maybe twice with just small bits of food. Not a lot. You don't want to be overfeeding your fish. That's a big thing that a lot of people think, oh, my fish is hungry, I need to add some food in there for them, but you don't want to be overfeeding them. Ultimately, I figured out that I'd usually feed my fish once a day with a couple grasshoppers. If you missed a day or you didn't have time to feed them one day, no big deal. They can handle going a day without food. But yeah, usually once a day, or maybe if you wanted to space it out twice a day, smaller increments of food, that works too, but that is a huge factor. Do not be overfeeding your fish. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed those 5 quick tips for starting your own aquarium or fish tank, whether it be wild fish or fish bought from the store. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope this was helpful. Let me know down below if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer them. Like I said, I'm newer to the whole fish tank thing, but this is what I learned in the first couple months of starting a tank out, and I hope that this helps you guys out. If you guys haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing more fish tank stuff in the future. And if you guys enjoy fishing and hunting in general, subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode of DC Bronzies. See ya.